Welcome back to Creating Cooperative Kids. I'm your host, Bill Corbett. Now, according to the Centers of Disease Control, 5.4 million children between the ages of 4 and 17 were diagnosed with ADHD in 2007. And that number is climbing fast with an increase of over 5% each year. Because parenting an ADHD child is so challenging, many adults, both parents and teachers, are turning too quickly to medication to handle this disorder and to increase the child's cooperation. But my next guest says there are natural solutions to behavior problems in children. Dr. Jared Skowron is a national expert in natural medicine for children and the founder of the University of Bridgeport's Pediatric and Autism Clinic. He is the best-selling author of 100 Natural Remedies for Your Child, a book that shows parents how foods can help prevent and treat disease. Dr. Skowron has appeared on the Animal Planet show Dogs 101 and is a regular contributor on NBC 30 WVIT and Fox 7 WNYF. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bill. Great to be here.
The first one, the question I want to ask you is something interesting that you share with me, that there are genetic causes for challenging behavior, and sometimes parents don't realize that.
It's really interesting to me. One of the top 5 genetic mutations in our country can cause hyperactivity, ADHD, worsen autism, and cause anxiety, depression, and even more serious things such as bipolar and schizophrenia. And the big concern for me is that people aren't looking at this gene, because if there's a problem with this gene, and a lot of parents that I talk to will say, well, you know, I think I've got some ADD or ADHD and I've never been diagnosed, or we've got some anxiety and depression in the family, and boy, geez, you know, this stuff just seems genetic. We have the gene, we've discovered it, and it's 100% treatable.
What do you say to people who are suspicious that this affected gene is actually being affected by additives that they're putting in foods these days? Is there any truth to that?
It's, everything that we eat, everything that goes into our mouth, whether we breathe it or eat it or drink it, it becomes part of who we are. And so the new science that's called epigenetics talks about how the expression of our genes is affected by everything, whether it be a toxin, whether it be an additive, whether it be monosodium glutamate. All of these different things affect us. And when you take a look at identical twins who all of a sudden grow up and become different people health-wise or different people emotion-wise, that has to be affected by something. And I think it's a part of nature and nurture. It's a part of our environment, what we bring in, and it's also a part of their own personal choices.
One of the complaints that I often get is parents come to me and say, our son's teacher wants us to put him on medication, on antidepressants, because he's really difficult to manage. But the reason I've invited you on the show is because I want parents to understand that there are non-medicinal solutions to challenging behavior, right? And so you have a center that focuses on that, right?
Correct. And so our center specializes on natural non-drug therapies to help kids, whether it be with ADD, ADHD, behavioral problems, anxiety, depression, autism, the whole gamut. We try and use natural remedies first before we switch to pharmaceuticals.
So I want to make sure that my crew puts up your website just so people can go there and get more information, especially those who are adamant about making sure that their child is not that they don't automatically put them on medication. So what are can you offer in a short time together some possible solutions, natural solutions to challenging behaviors?
Definitely, and I do want to make the quick comment that some kids do much better on the pharmaceuticals, but we need to try different alternatives first, because the plan B for pharmaceutical intervention is always there and something we can always fall back upon. Now the first couple things to try, what I normally talk to parents about, is using some of the things you already have in your kitchen. And so one of the first things we switch to is tea. So if you have any chamomile tea, if you have any sleepy time tea, other types of relaxing tea that somebody may use to go to sleep, you can take some tea bags, put it into a nice pitcher, and make some iced tea for the child. So anytime that they come home from school, they're feeling overactive, you start to get in a fight, just give them some of that iced tea. And even though it seems very simple, it actually can have some nice calming effects for the child.
Parents are all over going to be watching the show. And fortunately for parents in my viewing area, in the area of Connecticut, they can seek out your center. What would you say to parents who might be watching this across the country or internationally and want to be able to learn some of these natural solutions to challenging behavior if they're not in our immediate area?
Well, hopefully they have some people nearby who do specialize in natural therapies. For pediatrics, we do, in our office, we're talking on the phone or we're Skyping with people around the world on a day-to-day basis. But it's always nice to have somebody there for face-to-face contact, especially when you want to trust somebody with your child, when you want to run lab work, when you want to pick and choose, and what therapies are going to help the best.
What about testing?
Testing is essential for these kids. And again, going back to the genetic cause for ADD, ADHD, and behavioral issues, people need to have this gene tested. And this gene is called MTHFR. And so there have been multiple studies around the world, including Harvard and Yale, that show that when this gene doesn't work, you start to get anxious, you start to get depressed, you start to get hyperactive. So everybody has to have this gene tested. Again, especially if you feel that somebody in your family has ADD, has ADHD, or any of those symptoms. What we also test for are the chemicals in the brain, because the chemicals in your brain that we've all heard of, things like serotonin, things like adrenaline, they actually control how you feel, they control your behavior, they control your impulsivity. Those kids that just need to jump up and do something, they have alternating and they have high and low levels of these chemicals in their brain. We can test for all of this.
So how do you change chemical levels in the brain?
Again, everything like you mentioned, the additives that we get in our food, we are what we eat. And I know that's a very simple phrase that everybody talks about, but everything in the brain is made of proteins and made of vitamins that's in your food. So all of these kids who don't eat many vegetables, I'll tell you, even my daughter, she doesn't like to eat her vegetables very much. All the vitamins that you're missing when you're not getting enough vegetables, you're not getting enough fruits, those cause a deficiency in the brain. And so we don't have a horrible deficiency like scurvy when you don't have enough vitamin C, but you do get just enough deficiency so you affect brain chemical levels. And so we test for these vitamins, we test for proteins, and that's what the brain takes these two and puts them together, and you've got brain chemicals that affect behavior. So we can give these as food, we can give these as supplements, and it literally affects how you do in school, affects how you do at home, and it affects how you do as a family.
So unfortunately, a lot of parents are going through McDonald's drive-through, fast food restaurant, or frozen foods,
Sure.
and that's not good. So I think what I'm hearing you saying is perhaps professionals like you, or like at your center, recommend parents really create a balanced eating plan for the kids, right?
It definitely. And everybody knows what food is good for you and what food is bad for you, but it's tough when you've got kids and you've got life and you've got work. Making those changes can be really difficult. And sometimes what we need to do is make little baby steps. And when we're rushed and we need to stop off at a restaurant, whether it be a fast food place or somewhere, to get some food, it's important to make the right choices. And every fast food restaurant has multiple choices. You can get that greasy deep fried burger, or you can get a salad, or you can get a baked potato, or you can make healthier choices. And it's really about these little baby step choices that we make. So when we go to the supermarket, do we get the goldfish or do we get something else? And again, children, especially children with hyperactivity or behavioral issues, really have a lot of sensory issues when it comes to feeding. So it's a day-by-day challenge.
I hope parents watching this segment will realize that there are some natural solutions to some of these challenging behaviors, and to seek out professionals like you rather than just automatically putting kids on medication because I don't think we know all the impacts, the side effects of some of these medications. So Listen, I thank you so much for coming out,
Thanks,
Jared, and good luck with your center
in
Connecticut, and parents to know that there's something else they can do besides the medication.
Well, it's great to be here and help out.
I'm all in favor of remedies to problems that don't include chemicals or medicinal solutions. That's why I love what you're about to see next. Coming up in my next segment is a huge natural solution to a lack of cooperation in children, especially with those with disorders on the autism spectrum. You'll see what I'm talking about right after the short break, so don't go away.